take a moment to just kind of settle in. You're amongst friends again, even if they're Zoom friends. So just bring your mental attention to your body sitting here. Be aware of the body. Just kind of check in with it. Is it feeling awake yet? Is it already tired? So just check in with the body. Notice your fingers and toes. Your legs and your arms. And your hands resting in your lap. Try to hold the spine straight. With the chest open. And bring your awareness to your mind. What thoughts or feelings are active right now? And try to bring to mind your motivation for showing up this morning. And try to set an intention to use your time well. And then find that sensation of your breath going in and out of the body. Really be aware of the breath with each inhale and with each exhale. If your mind feels very scattered, you might want to do a couple of rounds of 9-round breathing, or you breathe in through your right nostril, then your left 3 times, then breathe in through your left, out the right nostril 3 times, and then evenly through both nostrils 3 times, just to kind of balance the energies of the body. Or you can just keep a gentle focus on that sensation of the breath. When any thoughts or images arise or sensations arise, just accept whatever arises. Try not to engage in them. Just let them float through the mind. They're impermanent, like clouds in the sky. And let the breath, that sensation of the breath, be an anchor, helping you settle the mind. Learning to open our mind with acceptance to whatever arises. Instead of contracting it with aversion or attachment. Developing a sense of contentment with whatever arises. Both in our inner world and external events and people and circumstances. Now call to mind something to which you are currently attached. This could be a food, a person, a story, clothing, or a place, anything at all that you are attached to at this time. Really see it or hear it. Be music, taste it, touch it, and feel it. Focus all your attention on this object of attachment and observe what happens. Feel the pull that it exerts on your mind. Just pick one. Just focus all your attention on this one object of attachment and see what arises in the mind or arises in the body. Now set this object of attachment aside. Take a few deep breaths to clear the mind. Now bring to mind something for which you have a strong aversion. This could also be a food that you find disgusting instead of something you're attached to, a person who irritates you, a place that depresses you, something happening in the world that you're averse to, a song that annoys you, gets in your head and drives you crazy. So really pick one object or situation or person that you find aversion arising. Just pick one and really imagine it. If it's a taste, imagine putting it in your mouth. If it's a touch sensation, imagine it rubbing up against your arm. If it's a sight, try to hold that image in your mind. Stay with this object of aversion for as long as you can. Really observe what arises in the mind. If you've discovered you've escaped your object of aversion, gently refresh your image or sound or taste or object and see what arises in the mind, what arises in the body. Now set the object of aversion aside. Take a few breaths to clear your mind. Now try to recall a time when you felt perfectly content, like a tree unshaken by the wind. How did this feel? Really try to bring yourself back to that moment. Think about how you experience it in the body and the mind. Just observe. Did the feeling of contentment make any difference to the way you behaved or the choices that you made? Now reflect on the experiences you've just had. How often does your mind get tossed around by the senses, being pulled by objects of desire, trying to escape objects of aversion? Just how quickly does your mind move from one object to another? And what effect does this have on your behavior, your relationships? Just reflect. If any insights arise, try to let them sink deeper into your mind stream so you can recall them. Now relax your attention on this contemplation and bring your attention to the sensations of the body. So starting with the feet, be aware of any sensations or absence of sensations. And bring your attention up to your ankles. And then slowly up your legs to your knees. Just being aware of any sensations in the body. The upper legs and the hips. to the belly and the lower back. To the chest and rib cage, the upper back. Your shoulders. Your arms and your hands. The neck. The back of the neck. And then the head resting on the neck. Noticing any sensations of the face, the forehead. Really allowing your face to soften, the muscles around the eyes, the mouth, the jaw, the back of the head. All the way to the top of the head. And then with gentleness, gently move the body. Rejoice in your efforts in this meditation. And dedicate any positive benefits that may result to last until the great enlightenment when there are no suffering sentient beings at all. So bring back your energy to the group. Shake it out. I find it really helpful to kind of, do this routine and relax. So welcome to all of those who just joined us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Peggy.
Hello.
Hi, Marianne.
Having trouble getting my picture to work, so I put on the background, but then I can't see you, so I don't know what's wrong.
Well, I'd let go of the background. Hi,
Hey.
Nick.
Hi, how's it going?
Good enough.
Hi, Venerable Tendron.
Hi, Faye. How are people feeling this morning? Or how's your mind? More importantly, how's your mind?
I was a little restless this morning. I should have joined the meditation.
All righty. So let's begin with, hi, good morning, Beata. Hi, Arlene.
Hi, I'm going to have to leave early today.
I'm
That's
sorry.
fine. Have a lovely day, a meaningful day.
Thank you, and you as well, everyone, the whole community.
Mhm. Hi, John.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, there's Jack. Hi, Jack. And David and Judy and Manuel and Rebecca and Brian and Carolina. I'm sure John Boy's there somewhere, but you know.
That every day that we do this, and the romper room.
Yes. Oh, who do I see? Where are my friends now? So, oh, okay. So let's set, and for those of you particularly who've just joined us, take a moment to reflect on why you showed up. And then try to set, generate an intention to use your time well. Let's recite the four measurables for good measure. To kind of remember we are not alone in samsara. So, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So the purpose of reading the four immeasurables, I mean, there are many, but one is just to understand or make, kind of bring to mind, the truth of suffering and the truth of the causes of suffering, the truth of, that suffering can end, and then the truth of how to make the method, the path to end suffering. And so our activity here is in that category of, understanding better the causes of happiness and suffering and the method to create those causes, so that we can reduce our suffering right away. And in this way, reduce the suffering in the world. So we can start with ourselves and then through our example and our energy, perhaps benefit others. And then, quickly, or eventually reach enlightenment so that we can truly know how to benefit others. Because it would be lovely if no one was suffering. It's hard to not understand the benefits of that. But that's not the way it is it? So this is a time where really trying to cultivate, great compassion, the compassion that not only wants, ourselves to suffer less, our self-compassion, or that those around us to suffer less, our loved ones to suffer less, but the kind of compassion that really wishes all living beings to not suffer. So how do we do that? What gets in our way of that? I'm just jumping right in. So, what gets in the way of our ability to oh yeah, there, Francesca.
Attachment. That was a big one during the meditation. I just can't
fathom how you cannot have attachment. And if that's part of what brings you to enlightenment, not having attachment, then I don't, I can't even fathom that. So
We have to start where we are. And
that's
try
a
to
big
remember that attachment is that extra bit we put into our relationships of loving kindness, love, concern. It's this added bit where there's something in it for us. That we are attached to people who help us, who delight us, who entertain us, who comfort us, who give us something. The attachment is that aspect of our relationships with, anything really, mostly people, but we're also attached to belongings, we're attached to sensations, we're attached to all kinds of things, of the senses. But it's the problem isn't enjoyment. It isn't receiving comfort or entertainment or delight or whatever, all those things that external things can provide us. The problem is that we take what's in it for us and make it kind of the most important thing without thinking about it. But this is why our loved ones become the objects of our compassion, and our wish for them to be happy, and not everyone. Because the idea in Buddhism isn't to become indifferent to our loved ones. It's to draw more people in to the circle of love and compassion. To really, to bring meaning to this idea of may all beings be happy, be free of suffering, be free of the causes of suffering. So it's developing affection for everyone, regardless of what's in it for us. And this is not easy to do, but the Buddha said, actually, the more we can just recognize how our self-cherishing influences our self-centeredness or self-interest, however you want to look at it, how this influences who we care about and who we don't care about. And if we would just let go of that being the basis, the foundation of our thoughts and feelings and attitudes towards beings and things, we will first of all realize more contentment, because we won't be so, dragged around by what we like and what we don't like. We'll be more accepting of whatever's happening in the moment, which gives us more freedom to make good choices about how to respond. So contentment isn't a state of blandness. It's a state of sort of evenness of mind, of just a comfortableness with, whatever's happening. Then, to me, of course, this changes from day to day because I'm just an ordinary sentient being with, my stuff. But it's this sense of confidence, that I will make it through this. And that really is a mental thing, not really a physical thing. Because, I might get more sick and and I'm gonna die, so it may not be, that I am not physically hampered with whatever's happening. It's that I don't let myself, these these things, these attitudes where I'm exaggerating the importance of what's happening outside of my mind, outside of me, to be what determines my state of mind. So in Buddhism, contentment is a lot about having few desires to change what is.
So, yeah, so like taking the I out of the equation in attachment, it like, I'm trying to think how to do that. Would that be kind of like just still having attachment or like love for somebody, or like a parent, or, you know, like you're attached to people in your life, but not for selfish reasons? Is that what you're trying to say?
It's called love.
Yeah.
Love is a state of mind free of attachment.
Mm.
Attachment's about ourselves. Attachment's about, you know, wanting someone to be happy
Mm-hmm.
because they benefit us.
That's not good. Wanting someone to be happy to benefit us.
Right, that's very self-centered.
Right.
So just like the good parent, when the child is grown up and going out of the house and picking their careers and their partners and all those things, we want them to be happy with no conditions.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That
Got
doesn't mean we abandon wisdom. That doesn't mean that sentient beings have a clear idea of what makes them happy, what happiness really is. In fact, that's why we're here. Because we're trying to really learn what provides this inner peace, this inner, what the Buddhists say, when you reach enlightenment and you're just completely free of attachment at all, completely free of all our exaggerated delusions, completely free of the ignorance that sees things existing in ways that are impossible, there's bliss. So we don't sacrifice anything except suffering by letting go of attachment and aversion. So it's not about losing our affection for those we refer to as our loved ones. It's about increasing our affection for all beings. It's a very important distinction. And it's also about recognizing that attachment and aversion, as they're defined in Buddhism, are not helping us be happy. That in fact, they are conditions for suffering to arise. So that takes a lot of reflection. So that's the idea behind meditation, such as, you know, really looking at, you know, thinking about how one feels, what's in the mind when you bring to mind an object of attachment. You know, what does it feel like in the body? You know, really becoming very precise about where we are. And so this is something helpful to just practice whenever, you know, so that you know, when you catch yourself, you know, going, ooh, you know, there's my favorite coffee place. Let's go there. We drive through the drive-through, we get our favorite coffee, you know, to really pause, park in the parking lot for a moment and pause and just notice what's going on in the mind. In fact, it's even better if you'll do it before you go through the drive-through, you know, sit pause, notice what's going on in the mind, that pull to have this, and then you go through the drive-through, get it, and then you pause again, and you kind of go, ooh, I've gotten what I want, and see how that feels. And then observe when you forget it, when you moved on, when your mind's just kind of gone, you know, so you're smiling, you're driving out of the place, you know, and you're kind of smiling. And then how long does it take before your mind's hooked by something else entirely? Either something that, you know, you want or something you don't want. We're constantly chasing after, you know, our thoughts just drag us around because we're habituated by thinking that the way to be happy is to change any moments of discomfort, no matter what degree they are, and seek moments of enjoyment, whatever in the range of those things. So we go toward, you know, so like, I don't know, the moment seems kind of boring or whatever, so we call a friend. You know, or we FaceTime our grandchildren to see their happy little faces. You know, or their not so happy little faces. So, you know, that we're constantly trying to placate ourselves. You know, when we're dissatisfied or just that edge of just like, you know, this could be better. And we have to become very observant because we're not even aware of it. We just, you know, we shift our position, you know. We get up, we change chairs. We walk outside, we walk inside. We're constantly, you know, trying to adjust to make things better. And then, you know, whatever we've done to adjust has to be adjusted again, because that's what samsara is like. We don't find the perfect chair, the perfect, you know, moment. There's no perfect moment in samsara. But what we don't realize is our constant seeking it is a state of suffering. That is a state of dissatisfaction. So, you know, we can play around with it in our minds, really be observant, you know, so that when, you know, and you play with the little stuff, you know, like you think, oh, I really want this cup of coffee today. I mean, I'm just using that because, you know, whatever. Yeah, but I haven't had a good cup of coffee for a couple of months because I make my own now, you know, which I always really did because I'm too cheap to buy coffee out. But anyway, but my coffee's not the best, you know. So, you know, we just take something that we tend to indulge in, so to speak, every day, you know, like, because indulging, and I use that word very lightly, loosely, not really meaning that it's, you know, but like, so we need food in the mornings, or maybe not, you know, but we need to eat periodically through the day. We need to have liquids periodically through the day, more often than we need the food, right? So you practice days where you always, when you have to drink something, you drink water. Because that's actually what the body needs. It needs water, you know. And when you eat, you just eat what's available that is nutritious, that helps you, as they say in you know, the 5 contemplations of Buddhism. You eat, you know, what nourishes you and prevents illness, you know. Not look for that perfect thing in the refrigerator, or go out for the perfect thing, just what you want, you know. So, and then see what happens. Observe your mind. You know, like while you're eating. I remember a meditation one time at a retreat where somebody in a discussion group was talking about how, it's a pretty good meditation to, while you're eating, go, wow, this is the worst vegetarian food I've ever eaten, and just taste it, chew it, but not get hooked by it, not develop aversion. Just eat. It's food. What do we eat? Why do we eat? We have to try to remember, why do I eat? What's the purpose of, putting this in my mouth? It looks the same, it all looks the same coming out the other end. It's fuel for the body. And the more stuff we put in our mouths that actually isn't fuel, the more it just goes through the body. Or turns into, fat or whatever. So we have to remember, that there are ways in which we can notice that we're imputing on top of something happiness or suffering. And we've added a layer of mental experience on top of the physical experience that may not be valid, that's not likely valid. And isn't, if it does fall into the category of attachment or aversion, because those are exaggerations of either the positive things and things we like about something or the negative things we dislike about something. They may have some basis in our experience. What is it? The research says 10% of the object of anger is, can be attributed to the condition of the mind of anger arising. So that means 90% of it is what you're making up. It's interesting to really challenge your mind to look at things, to really observe what's going on in your own inner world as you experience things through the day, and recognize when aversion or attachment is dragging you around. And if we have the habit of thinking that our happiness depends on everything being just so, what are the odds of that?
Zero.
Zero. I mean, it really is. It's zero. It's zero. And so what the Buddha is suggesting is that if we really work on training the mind away from exaggerations, away from imbuing things with qualities that are impossible for them to have, and instead experience things as they are, just as they are, and not try to escape in every moment when it's discomfort. And in fact, we can even change our view of many of the objects that we consider, that we're averse to, that we dislike, to become, more neutral or not even dislike at all. And that's the job of a that's what bodhisattvas do. So when we do cultivate a mind of great compassion, and that great compassion leads us to this highest intention of wanting to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, and we don't have any moment that isn't in that mindset, then every condition becomes a way to learn how to better benefit others. And so everything's seen as an opportunity. Now, I'm a long way away from that. But I do understand, by trying to guide myself into that direction, it makes it easier for me to see all the mistaken conceptions that arise in my mind, thinking that this is, oh, but I need this, or I certainly don't need that, or however it is, that we just make up these stories that instead of making us more content, actually cause us more disturbance. And if we keep holding to the idea of not having these, push-pull kind of experience of life, it will be dull, boring, or what's the point, kind of attitude. We've closed our mind to it. We've drawn a conclusion that not having these extreme highs and lows, obviously we're not really keen on the lows, but, if you have to have the lows to have the highs, then you'll keep them. And the Buddha said, no, that's not really true. It's a story we've made up. And our world reflects that. But the more we can develop a certain acceptance of whatever is arising, even in our own minds, like it's, instead of responding harshly to ourselves when greed arises or aversion arises or attachment arises, any of those states of mind, if we just go, oh, I'm observing that attachment's arisen. That gives us some space not to follow the attachment, to kind of go within and center ourselves with, understanding that there's no happiness in attachment. Attachment is what leads to addiction. And we can all blatantly see the suffering there when we're not in the midst of it. When we're not sharing that, dessert at the end of lunch with all of our friends, oh, we can share it. We're all so we're gleefully sharing our attachment. I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding that that's what it is. It's not, it's sort of like, okay, I'm just, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying things at all. Enjoyment is the result of our positive past actions. What we want to understand is clinging to our enjoyments destroys our positive actions. It turns them into negative actions. It arises from ignorance. And positive and negative just means positive actions lead us to happiness, lead to positive results of cause and effect. Positive actions are the cause of positive results. Negative actions are the cause of negative results. We can imbue those words with more than that meaning. But, that's again, our tendency of making things exist in some inherent quantifiable way. Oh, this object is good. This object is bad. This thought is good. This thought is bad. Instead of really just assessing, oh, attachment's arisen. Well, I know where that goes. It leads me to suffering. So I'm going to enjoy this, whatever it is, without clinging to it. And being present for it. So you taste every bite of the delicious, perfectly ripe mango, you know. You don't miss it because you're already thinking about, okay, what's next? Ooh, I have to wash my hands. It's all sticky and gross. You know, whatever we've done, you know, whatever, you know. So we've missed the object of our enjoyment because we've moved on already.
When you say not cling to it, do you mean like not thinking about when you're going to have the next one, right?
Yeah, it's grasping onto it, making it permanent. Ooh, not only am I having this good moment, I want to have nothing but good moments. I want this to last forever. Have you ever had that thought? Ooh, I wish this moment could last forever. And it can't. That's an impossible way of existing.
I think that's what that cliche means, have your cake and eat it too.
Oh, maybe so. We know how well that worked out for the person who said it.
Venerable Tendron?
Yes. I'm trying to, oh, there you are.
Okay. I have an example and just processing what you've said. For instance, I really love playing pickleball, although it's not possible now. But in my mind before playing, you know, I would be looking forward to it, and getting there would bring more of an emotion, a positive feeling, an excitement, and playing it, and then that cycle goes on. But I think what I got from what you said is that to develop this awareness that that's what you're doing, you're clinging to that which you enjoy or like.
Well, let's take that in parts, okay? So the anticipation phase, you know, where you're driving to the event and you're looking forward to it, and there's a sense of excitement, say, you know, those kinds of things. Okay. So what are we attached to in that moment?
You're attached to the thought.
So you've imbued pickleball with pleasure.
Yes.
You know, and now you're anticipating that pleasure. Well, that's a story we're making up, right? It's not happening now. It's what you're imagining what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
Is it guaranteed?
No.
No. So what we're really doing in that moment is enjoying the experience of the story. We're getting hooked by our storyline.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what we do is we superimpose this story we've made up onto the external object instead of recognizing the inner, you know, that this is actually, you know, something you're doing in your own mind. We're putting it outside of us on the object. Okay, so then you arrive, and now you're playing pickleball, and it's going well, and you're enjoying it. So at least that's living in the moment. You know, you're something that you enjoy doing, you're doing, if you're doing that. But how often, you know, many of us, when we're actually doing something that we say we enjoy, our mind's on it, the actual activity, very little bit of the time. I find sports help, you know, because you have to focus in order to play. You do bring some mindfulness on a good day, you know, and that probably helps, you know, because it's hard to, you know, if you don't follow the ball or whatever it is, you know, not going to do so well. So we want to be aware of how quickly our mind just goes all over the place, no matter what we're doing, whether we like what we're doing, whether we don't like what we're doing, whether we're bored. So we can see the ways in which we create things that whether we don't like, or that we're thinking about, oh, well, let's wait till the next moment that's pleasurable. So it's just about really being aware. It's not the object, it's our response to the object. Some people only enjoy their sports when they're playing well. So actually what they're attached to is the outcome of the game, or the outcome of each play. And in particular, their role in that. So they're imbuing this sense of enjoyment with, I have to do well. Which obviously is a trap, because if you don't do well, then you can't enjoy it. We set rules around things. And then we finish, and then we go home. And so maybe our body feels good because we've had some exercise. So we really want to get more precise about what it is that's leaving a pleasant experience. Or we think, oh, it was, you had a nice, enjoyable time with your friends. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. And there's not even anything wrong with enjoying it after the fact. We just want to recognize if we're, taking that experience and making it as somehow, in the objects themselves. Like every time we spend time with our friends is a pleasant one. That's not true. That every time we play this or that it's pleasurable. That's not true. It depends on our mind. Where's our mind? Is it in a good place or a bad place? Yes, Nick.
I kind of have a good example of this. I had a friend back in undergrad who, like, it was kind of a weird thing. He got broken up with, and I was like, oh, naturally you're upset and everything, and you're going to be averse to that. And he's like, no, I haven't been sad in a while, so I kind of want to embrace this moment. And that was so backwards to me back then, because it was like years ago, but like the habit of being attached to something, is like all pervasive. So to the point where you don't even think about it. And it's like you're saying, we need to think about it in every, like, just question it even with Starbucks.
Yeah.
But it applies everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. So we want to be very observant of what our response is to all these different stimuli out there. That's probably plural with a singular, but it's been decades since I was an English major. So it's about understanding that we're constantly creating stories that are not helpful, actually. We think they're helpful, but they're so filled with inaccuracies that they become setups for us to be disappointed, devastated, all sorts of different layers, later, or, completely. This is how we get hooked by praise and criticism. We like pleasing words. We like pleasing sounds. We like pleasing food, all these things. And of course, who has to please? It has to please us, So, and then, so if we hear criticism, and so we get pulled to this high of praise. And so as soon as we heard something unpleasant, we crash. Because we're giving the power to external objects constantly. That this has to go this way or that way, or this person has to look this way or that way, or say, everything. And it's not an effective strategy. It's unskillful, and it's based on a faulty premise that our friends are inherently people we like. So in that moment, we've just, blinded ourselves to all those moments where we don't particularly like our friend. So we're exaggerating. We're not understanding that it really, our liking our friend in any moment is really about where our mind is in that moment. If we're feeling tight about and worried or anxious or angry about something in our lives previously to this encounter with this friend, then almost anything they say can become a condition for us to, kind of dismiss them in some way. Like, how can you think that? Or how can you want that? Or how can you like that? What were you thinking when you bought that dress? We want to really understand how much of our experience is through the stories in our mind. The Buddha just said these stories because they're based on, a false idea of how things exist, an impossible way for things to exist. We grab onto things as thinking they'll be permanent. Oh, I found permanent happiness here. I found just the right diet for me. I found just the right books that I like to read. I've found, we keep looking for these external conditions. This is good enough, but it will change. Things don't exist that way. And we're so shocked when friends are suddenly, we're not interested in spending any time with them. Something's changed. Guess what's changed? It's our mind. It's our perception of them that's changed. Whatever it is that what was in it for us is no longer in it for us. So we move on. We change partners that way. We change sports that way. All the tennis players who switch to doubles. Explain singles, they can't win anymore. And that's not enjoyable. Or it's just, their bodies can't take it. And that isn't a poor strategy. We have to adapt. But you can see it when people can't let go of something. Oh, but I used to be so good at this. And they're making themselves miserable because they're no longer able to do it. We all have moments of this. I was trying to pick up something the other day. In one of my first jobs, I had to display furniture. So I moved a lot of heavy stuff, and I was always moving furniture, changing it around, da-da-da-da-da. And I was trying to pick up something the other day. I thought, you really can't do it. And I must have tried 6 times. I kept trying. I'm going, no, it's really not happening. I can't do it. But there was this resistance to what is because I didn't like what is. And that creates our own suffering. So this is a way in which we can reduce our suffering right away, is being more precise, being very good observers of what's going on in our minds. And then recognizing when we're headed in a direction that's not going to turn out to our liking. So really, yes, Jack.
So what happens when you recognize that, but you just can't seem to help yourself? You just keep going, even though you know it's wrong.
That just means we're not putting the effort. Some things, we have to recognize it's a choice. You know, that we just, it's like, yes, there's some things we're out of control with. We're addicts. And we just either make the choice, I'm not giving that up, or we make the choice, I am giving that up. And then we do the effort to do it. And we don't have to sit there and look at ourselves and go, oh, I'm so bad that I don't want to give this up. What we can do is have compassion for all the addicts in the world. Oh, I understand how this feels to not want to give up something. You know? But then we want to really analyze, what are we giving up? Like we may have to give up certain things. Like, you know, you may have to give up sugar, you know, because that just does, you know, and it's not because you quit liking the taste of it or whatever, but because your body has a harsh reaction to it and it can kill you. So you have to make this choice. Okay, do I want to continue to let this body live, or am I, you know, I'm sorry, I want to keep, you know, continuing with sugar. That is our choice. We can choose that. That's fine. Rebecca?
Yeah. Also, I mean, just thinking about what Jack asked, depending on what it is that you're referring to, sometimes you have to get help. Either, I mean, it's not, I think, say that you're addicted to, you know, anything from ice cream sandwiches to heroin, that, you know, it doesn't, sometimes you can't, we are not capable of just making the choice.
We are not independent. We are dependent arisings. Our habits are dependently arisen. And those that are most powerful are the ones that we practice the most. That's why we turn to teachings. That's why we turn to, you know, going, okay, I'm not doing this in any effective way. I need help with it. Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, so no, this is more of an clinging to an aversion that I'm talking about. I mean, what happens is, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but
because the specifics don't matter.
They don't matter. It starts a story in my head, and I say, I know that's making me feel bad. I know it's causing me to lose sleep, right? You know, and blah blah blah, and I know it's useless. And
so what are
it
you
goes away
attached
temporarily.
to in those moments?
What
is the attachment in those moments? You've identified the aversion. So what's the attachment in holding on to the aversion?
I don't.
So we have to really look. This is what I mean by analyzing. You know, we have to understand when we're clinging, there's something in it for us. You know, like so often with aversion, it's that we really want it to be in our power for it to go away. We're really attached to that, and we're not accepting that that's not within our power. So we're attached to our control. And this is one of those attachments that brings us suffering. And we do what we can with it. I mean, we have to recognize what it actually is. It's not about our aversion. It's about our attachment to not having to deal with that. Does that make sense? And so we have to, you know, we have to make sure we're approaching these things, you know, from the reasoning that will help oppose it. And if we keep expecting success with everything, that's another setup. You know, it's this idea that I should be able to control myself already. Sorry, you're just gonna have to suffer through this. So, you know, it's just, it's really being, it gets easier, but it doesn't get easier if we don't have an appropriate antidote. You know, so we have to watch our minds. If we keep thinking, oh, I should be able to let this go, you're not practicing anything skillful. You're practicing the attachment to control, as opposed to accepting that this is what's arisen in my mind. Oh, and this is what's arisen in my mind again. Oh, this is what's arisen in my mind.
A question.
Okay.
Hi. So I have a question. Are you saying it's not to run away from aversion? Because aversion is just a state of mind, you know, causing you to
What is aversion?
when you don't want to, when you are pushing something away?
It is an exaggeration of the negative qualities of the object.
Okay.
So you're not seeing something accurately, but it's a condition for unpleasantness to arise. You don't like it.
Right.
Okay. So yes, the Buddha's saying if we could let go of trying to escape from all of our discomforts and trying to just find comfort, because in samsara, it is the nature of suffering. We will not succeed because it's an attitude of mind.
What if it's something that's a moral issue? And it
Francesca, you always go to the heart of something really difficult. It doesn't matter whether it's a moral issue. The point is, this is not condoning behavior that's immoral.
Right.
It's about what do we, you know, have you ever done anything immoral?
Yeah, but I mean,
okay, but nothing. Okay.
You know, but
nothing. Just
okay.
Relax that.
Right.
Okay.
I guess
is that
the point
all
I was.
You are those moments of that you've been immoral?
No.
That's true of everyone. No one is 100% immoral. No one. So what's immoral is the action, not the person.
Right.
So we need to understand that incidences of behavior that we see or hear, it's speech, are a condition for us to develop that, first of all, compassion for the person, because it's always, you know, it's a manifestation of suffering in some way, even if we don't understand it. You know, they're thinking it's going to bring them happiness in some way, you know, to have compassion for how mistaken they are, you know, and compassion for the harm it does to someone else. And this understanding, we're all this mixed bag.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And if this person didn't suffer or didn't have this mistaken understanding about where happiness is, they wouldn't act this way. Right. It doesn't mean we don't protect ourselves, you know, that we don't have laws, that we don't have all this stuff. It's about our response to the person.
Right. It's these political views lately that I'm struggling with, you know, with people, hard. You know, with friends and people like that, you know, that people just are writing each other off and they're saying you're wrong.
So you can
right.
choose to do the same, to just write people off, or you can sit with the discomfort of having friends that disagree with you.
Right now, that's very difficult, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Well, we just don't like discomfort. There are worse things that are difficult. You could be being tortured by the person who doesn't have the same view as you. You know, we really have to put things in perspective.
Good.
You know? So it's just, it's really, this is the difference between having attached compassion and unbiased compassion. We have attached compassion when they have to think like we do the things we approve of, you know, for us to like them, or for us to have compassion for them. We may not like them. Unbiased compassion is having compassion no matter what their point of view is, no matter what their actions are, because this is a recognition of the Buddhist teachings on cause and effect. The Buddha says we do everything to try to be happy and avoid suffering. And we're totally mistaken about the causes of those things. We think getting what we want is the method for happiness. And instead, it's quite often the method for immoral actions.
So on the flip side of what I think it was Francis or Francesco, sorry, was saying, is like, so if we do good actions, it doesn't make us a good person either.
Correct. There isn't, we are just, we're all just bodies and minds. There are positive ways, there are positive actions of body, speech, and mind. The I that we grasp onto, I'm a good person. Or the I we're averse to and still grab onto, oh, I'm a terrible person. Comes out of our ignorance about how we exist. We think we're not these changeable moments of body and mind. We think that there's something permanent about us. There's some core permanence to us. And the Buddha said, no, there isn't. Everything changes from moment to moment. And the good news is that means we can choose from moment to moment either to follow our habit energy, our tendencies, or try to not do that. And with practice, whatever we practice grows stronger. If we give up every time, that's our habit, And it's a process. It's not an event. It's not like, oh, I finally noticed, so I'll never do that again. My experience is that never happens. It's like, even things you stub your toe on, you keep stubbing your toe on it until you actually fix whatever it is. This is the thing. So it's a process.
So, 'cause I'm just trying to understand. So nothing can define us, whether even if we try to do as many good things as possible and try to benefit other people, we're just
we're heading in a direction where we could remove all of our ignorance and all of our negative habits. That's what enlightenment is. So it's not that it serves no purpose to try to head in a positive. If we want happiness, that's the way to go about it. If we want to benefit others, learning how to cultivate the causes for happiness is how we can help others. If we keep telling other people mistaken ways of becoming happy, we're not a very effective, helper. So we need to learn how. And then through our experience, try to help others. But one way to start is to, at the very least, not always jump in as if you have the right answer for everybody, but to pause and to observe the way we layer things with attachment and aversion, because that distorts our point of view. It makes them faulty. And so we have to uncover when we're doing that. We need to uncover our ignorance. And our main ignorance is about how we exist. And we grasp onto this sense of self. Oh, I need this to be happy. I need to be able to escape from that to be happy. When it's really not about out here at all. And since we live in, the Buddha called our realm where we live the desire realm because the people who live here have a lot of trouble with desire. We follow our cravings around. The cause of being born human is following ethics. So all those human beings out there that we think are wrong, dead wrong, they also have the tendencies of ethics, so they could have been born a human. But they want happiness, and their idea of what will make them happy is different from yours. And they clash. If we can relate to people from knowing, from that point of view of just knowing this person wants to be happy just as much as I do. And probably there are many aspects of that that we share in common. Like we want our children to be safe. We want to have enough to eat. We want to be able to see a doctor when we're sick. We want to feel safe from the police. You know, there are many things that we share in common. We just have a different idea of what that will happen. What, you know, what makes that happen. And so the Buddha just said, you know, what kind of gets in our way of really being able to have great compassion, great love for all living beings is this clinging to this idea of it has to be my way for it to work. You know, that basically there's one answer and it's mine. So, you know, so we, you know, we kind of segregate our communities among, you know, so we have like-minded friends, we have like-minded, you know, so that we don't have to rub against sandpaper very often, you know. But the Buddha is trying to encourage us just to, you know, step back from this clinging and to try to accept whatever's arisen, you know, and not get so invested in outcomes of this moment. It's a moment. This does not make us passive. It doesn't, you know, suggest that there's nothing we can do with our external world to, you know, make it, you know, a better place to live, however you want to word it. Of course there are things, we created it. Of course there are things we can do to make it better. We can also, there are things we can do to make it worse. But we can't do it by forcing our view on others. We have to kind of figure it out together. And that's what nations try to do there. You know, we have laws, we try to change the laws, we try to, you know, all sorts of things. But also we have communities and we try to support each other, you know, in times of difficulties. We try to, you know, celebrate in times of ease, you know, whatever. We have an impact on each other. We just need to recognize when our impact on others is being influenced by our self-interest. You know, and so we try to reduce that as much as possible. If I wasn't in this picture, would I see this the same way? Am I holding on to something because of my interest? You know, something, you know, that I want it to look like this. You know, and sometimes it's really, you know, when we really face ourselves, you know, sometimes it's not very pretty. You know, I only want to see peaceful protest. I don't want to see any action violence. I'd really love to see that. But not for the right reasons. You know, just superficially, you know, violence frightens me. And I'm worried that, oh, the result of that will be no change in the right direction, you know, because I have an opinion about that. So, you know, now when I look deeper, I have some very good reasons to pray for no violence. You know, so it doesn't mean that our self-interest means we're automatically wrong. It just means that we may be clinging too tightly to one aspect and not being able to step back and be able to see the big picture, and also understand that samsara is in the nature of suffering. We don't make change easily. Look at your own mind to understand that. You know, how hard it is to let moments of rage pass. How hard it is to let go of some idea of what will make this perfect. You know, all those if only minds and what if minds that cloud our judgment. Really putting in the work of coming from a place of other interest and not so consumed with self-interest. See, I'm very attached to this. I can tell because my jaw is tighter in this moment. My neck, I'm starting to get a headache, and it's because I'm holding my neck really tight and my jaw really tight. So we need to recognize these moments about ourselves. You know, and realize, okay, breathe. This moment is not the end all or be all of anything. Just a moment.
Venerable Tendron?
Yes.
I got this is all really resonating a lot with me, and there's actually an attachment, a habit I have that I've been trying to get rid of, you know, stop doing for a long time. I've done all sorts of ways and trying to help myself throughout my life, and I'm actually at a point where I feel, since I've been into the teachings, and it's brought me to a point where I feel like, I mean, I understand the aversion of it, but the doubt is like the thing that's inundated, and I feel like it's got such a grasp on me, because, like I said,
how new are you, Brian? How long have you been studying Buddhism?
Oh, not very, maybe like 6, yeah, maybe a year between the year to, yeah, a little under a year, maybe even maybe a little less.
I've been doing it for 22 years, 22 years, I guess, maybe 23 years. I still have doubt. Sorry. I mean, I'm sure that's not the answer you want, but I'm not a Buddha yet. I don't have realization. I'm not a Bodhisattva yet, you know? So of course doubt arises. Doubt, you know, we want to this is why the importance of keeping the mind open. Doubt doesn't have to mean a closed mind. You know, doubt is this sort of like, I'm not sure. And some things we have doubt that kind of going in the, you know, that are denying something about the teachings. And sometimes they're going towards thinking, you know, sort of an assumption that the teachings are correct. But until we have realizations, direct experiences of these different things, there's going to be, you know, we're not going to be so certain. And so we have to reflect a lot. We have to keep looking at our experiences over decades, not 6 months, not 22 years. We have to have, and now for some people, they'll have realizations because they've been practicing in previous lives really well and developed all sorts of things. They finally remove their obstacle and some realization arises. You know, most of us, you know, we're not quite there yet. If we were, we'd probably be hanging out with His Holiness. You know, we'd probably have so much merit, you know, we'd be part of His Holiness's, you know, retinue, you know, or some other enlightened being, kind of, you know. I mean, it's just, so we have to, you know, I was gonna say, and you're stuck with me in this moment. So as the explainer of the teachings, you know, so we have to look at how much merit we've got, and we have to understand that doubt is a necessary component, because if you don't have any doubt at all, unless you've had realizations, then you're just going on blind faith. You know, it's not going to have any stability for when times get tough, when something really devastates you. And you look at the explanations of, you know, cause and effect, you look at emptiness, you look at all these different aspects of the teachings, and they don't give you any support because you haven't developed any stability through reasoning. You know, so doubt's not a bad thing. Eventually we have to overcome our doubts, you know, but I wouldn't let it worry you too much. You know, so when doubt arises, you just kind of go, oh, doubt's there. And then maybe that gives you a stepping off point for looking at something that you have doubt about more, you know, more carefully or more thoroughly, or read more teachings about it. And then there's some things that we just, you know, it's going to take us a long time for us to be able to really remove doubts, because we don't have, you know, we just don't have enough of a foundation. You know, and it depends on our past habits from past lives, you know, so that for some people, you know, some things just make sense right away. They just really don't have any doubt about it. And other things, not so sure. Past and future lives, not too sure. You know, experiencing only things you've created the cause for, not so sure. These things, you know, so it's just a process. But doubt and confusion can lead to wisdom if we apply reasoning, if we apply, you know, get the information we need, if we check it out with our experiences, our personal experiences, you know, think some more about it, you know, try out some techniques of how to, you know, develop our ability to analyze, you know, all these different things, you know, that can help reduce our confusion.
Venerable Tendron, I wanted to ask, so you're saying that, you know, we need to accept things as they are, but I mean, there are instances where...
No, that's not quite what it is. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm reading into your tone. So ignore me. Go ahead.
Okay. But I mean, there are some instances where we do need to change, you know, certain things, like maybe a job or a surrounding or friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
but okay, so this is why I wanted to interrupt, is that accepting things as they are does not mean that they have to stay like that. It's just like, all right, say you realize I need a new job, okay? Yeah. But when you go to work that day, you have to accept that the job you have is this one before you've changed it. That there's no reason to suffer today because you want to change your job in the future. You know, we don't have to spend the whole day going, God, I wish I wasn't working here. When, you know, that doesn't really help. That just makes us feel miserable. So accepting what is in every moment isn't about, I mean, it informs us. Do we want change? Do we not want change? Do we want, you know, it can inform us. But in that moment, acting as if it's not what's happening now doesn't really help. So that's the only sense of accepting what is. That this is what's happened. It's sort of like I was reading Lama Yeshe on not worrying about nuclear power. And one of his arguments was it exists. It's too late to worry about it. You know, it's here. So now we have to figure out how to handle its existence, you know? So, okay. Brian Burns?
Yes. I just wanted to say, the Zen masters say the 3 pillars of the Buddhist path are great faith, great doubt, great courage.
Great, what was the last one?
Great courage.
Ah, yes. Boy, that's the truth, isn't it? So yes, so this is, you know, I mean, this is the process of listening, studying, contemplation, and meditation is this process of uncovering our doubt, uncovering our confusion, so that we can, and being brave to face our own minds. Okay, it's getting towards the end. How'd that happen? So, any last burning thoughts for today or questions for today? Yes, Graziella.
Could you say a little more about what Brian just said? Could you just...
It's a Zen teaching. I really can't.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it's, so you can ask Brian for a Zen recommendation of a Zen book.
Yeah, no, just what he said. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, he said there are 3 pillars of Buddhism. What was the first? Faith. Faith was first. Faith, doubt, courage. Now, but faith is a very particular kind of faith. It's a faith based on reasoning and experience. It's not just, I assume Buddha's telling us the truth. Mm-hmm. It's by taking the teachings, really deep reflection on the teachings, deep reflection on our experience, and then developing a confidence in the teachings. And then we have faith in the, the 3 jewels, and we have faith in the Buddha as the teacher. We have faith in the Dharma as the actual teachings that we want to internalize. And we have faith in the Sangha as the community that we share our journey with, help us practice in the direction we're trying to go. And so, and then the only way to have faith is to, really to have doubt. We have to have questions. We have to investigate. We have to, we don't just go, oh, because the Buddha said so. That won't help. Because as soon as we have some experience that seems to kind of contradict to that, we'll go, oh, the Buddha was wrong. Tick. We check that box. Wrong. So, we want to examine more closely, more in depth with our experience and the teaching. And we want to check up. Have I understood this teaching correctly? We might go back. So it's a process, a long process, and then it takes courage to question every, society, to question our worldview, to question our strength. Am I capable of doing no harm? Am I capable of holding, sitting with this, discomfort, the pain of what the society is experiencing this moment with the globe, all the coronavirus, can I be brave and be able to tolerate that discomfort in order to be of benefit? There are all sorts of, so that's my Tibetan Buddhist version of that Zen teaching. So
thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. And you'll have to go to Brian to see if I really got it all wrong. But there are different views, but there's mostly different methods. There are different tools that the different traditions provide the students that follow them.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's do, no, that's not what I want. Patience with myself. Okay, I'm going to have to open everything so I can reject. And we'll do this. Okay, so let's take a moment for a little short meditation that Lama Zopa Rinpoche created. So take a moment to find yourself sitting again, kind of go within. Bring to mind your motivation you set earlier. And to read a motivation by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Don't worry if you're not there yet, but just to hear his wonderful words. How wonderful it would be if myself and all sentient beings were to be free of suffering and attain the state of full enlightenment. May we be free of suffering and attain full enlightenment. I myself will bring this about. Therefore, I'm going to do this special meditation for purification. And so purification is a practice just to try to change our negative habits and cultivate our positive habits. So we're going to imagine, a compassionate being in front of us. Perhaps you have an affinity for Chenrezig with his 1,000 arms, or Tara with her legs stretched out, ready to get up to help. Maybe Medicine Buddha, willing to heal samsara of all its ills, or all the beings of the ills of samsara, or Shakyamuni Buddha. So just try to bring about a mental image, or really a presence of this enlightened being in front of you. They are gazing upon you with eyes of compassion, love, without judgment, just as you are. Now, with each inhale, imagine light from this being's heart, which is in the nature of great compassion, blesses all living beings. It fills your whole body and mind with great compassion in the heart. Imagine all sentient beings being filled with this light of great compassion at the heart, without discrimination, understanding their suffering, and with the thought to free them from all their sufferings and problems. So just keep breathing in all this light. Now with each exhale, visualize all your negativities, all your tendencies of negative habits of body, speech, and mind, all the ignorance, all your past negative actions, the karmic seeds that have been placed on your mind stream, the grasping at the I, the me. Imagine all these things go out with your breath. Picture it as dark smoke, but it doesn't stay around. It goes beyond this world till it vanishes completely, not one atom left. So imagine all living beings being purified in this way. Every in-breath, they're receiving this light of great compassion, blessing their minds, blessing their body. And with each exhale, all the negativities, all the delusions, all the ignorance is released in the form of smoke. It disappears completely, not one atom left. With your inhale, imagine that you have the light that is in the nature of wisdom. The enlightened mind, fully awake, no ignorance at all. This wonderful light fills your whole body and mind. And exhale again, all the negativities and ignorance, going beyond this world, completely disappearing. With the next inhale, imagine that the light coming from this compassionate, enlightened being is in the essence of power, a power to help everyone, to free them immediately from suffering, from all their problems, all the causes of suffering. Think that this light is the perfect power to give both temporary and ultimate happiness, all the way to complete enlightenment. And our whole body and mind is filled with this light and the nature of perfect power to do perfect works for all sentient beings, just like the Buddha. And take a moment to rejoice in thinking this way, of not seeing ourselves as stuck or ordinary, but see us from the angle of our Buddha nature, our Buddha potential. And that may all these merits created by thinking in this way will last until enlightenment, till there are no suffering sentient beings whatsoever. And then when you feel ready, please gently open your eyes and we'll recite the dedication prayers from Shanti Deva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So thank you very much for your efforts. Unmute and
Thank you,
Unmute team.
Venerable Tendron.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
have a meaningful
Thank you,
day.
Tendron.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Venerable
Thank you.
Tendron. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Thank you, Venerable Tendron.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.